Idaho Matters podcast is brought to you by St. Luke's On Demand Virtual Care, which allows patients to see a provider from their home using a computer or smartphone with on demand care for common ailments such as a cough, sore throat, or a sinus issue. More information at stlukesonline.org. More Idaho Matters now from the studios of Boise State Public Radio News. I'm Gemma Gaudette. If you've ever been lucky enough to see a monarch butterfly flutter by, you know it's almost impossible not to stop and admire their beautiful black and orange wings. But unfortunately, these iconic insects are becoming harder to find. Their populations are shrinking at an alarming rate, which is why Fish and Game is asking for your help. Now, this summer, Idahoans can help by adopting a patch of milkweed and counting butterflies. So here to tell us more is Fish and Game regional wildlife biologist Tempe Reagan. Tempe, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So to get us started, can you talk to us about what's happening to the monarch butterfly population right now?
Sure. Well, the population originally was in the millions of butterflies, and in 2020, it experienced an extreme crash to less than 2,000 individuals, which, if you know anything in biology, that's pretty drastic. And while we were very concerned, it did rebound to over 200,000 butterflies, but last winter, it again crashed to less than 5,000 individuals. And the way they're getting these numbers are by doing overwintering counts of the butterflies as they basically hibernate on the wintering grounds in the west coast of California.
So do you know why? Is there any reasoning
Yeah,
as to why we're seeing this happen?
right. That is a good question. I think for now, the current state of knowledge suggests that it's probably a multifaceted cause. Milkweed is the sole source of food for monarch caterpillars. And so if we lose our milkweed populations, we will not have monarchs at all. Milkweed is often found growing along roadways adjacent to urban, suburban, and agricultural areas. And so any kind of management that we do for our properties, roadways, and food production can impact the milkweed. But also things like pesticides, impact the caterpillars, as well as, if you can imagine, this entire population of monarchs is overwintering in less than 75 groves of trees in California. So if anything happens to those groves of trees or overwintering groups of butterflies, that has a huge impact on the population itself. And so all of these things taken together are probably having large effects. And recent research is also suggesting that extreme drought and extreme heat events is probably having a severe impact on the development and life cycle of the caterpillar as it then metamorphs into a butterfly.
So tell us why these butterflies are so important to our ecosystem.
Well, first, the monarch butterfly, as you mentioned, is so recognizable. It's iconic. And one of my earliest memories as a kid is interacting with a monarch butterfly and being so excited to watch it emerge from its chrysalis. So they're kind of a iconic gateway species for kids and families and really anyone into our natural world. And because of that, they're also an excellent ambassador for pollinator species in general. And although monarchs rely completely on milkweed for their life cycle, many other insects also rely on milkweed for a food source or even a source of breeding habitat. And so if we are conserving the monarch butterfly, we're having far-reaching effects for pollinator conservation in general. And really, 1 out of every 3 bites of food that we eat comes from food that has been pollinated by an insect. And so pollinators matter, and the monarch butterfly is a way to help folks engage with and think about maybe a fly that isn't so attractive. But if we're engaging with the monarch butterfly, we are also conserving those species that are even less identifiable.
So, to try to get a handle on the decline of the monarch population, Idaho Fish and Game actually wants Idahoans to sign up to count butterflies. Can you tell us how this works?
Yes, this is such an incredible, exciting opportunity for the Idaho Department of Fish and Game to partner with Idaho citizens and to really accomplish a very large survey of the entire state. So previous to this effort, we've been doing surveys for monarchs and milkweed in just certain sections of the state, but that doesn't really allow us to get a handle on what the whole population is doing across Idaho. When we are working with conservation of species like insects and other non-game species, there's often not very much funding available. And so
Mhm.
by partnering with folks across the state, it really allows us to get a huge data set and accomplish these surveys across a very large spatial area compared to if we had a grant or something that would probably limit us to getting things done in certain areas only. So we're hoping folks will adopt these milkweed patches that we've randomly selected and visit them 1 to 3 times this summer to collect data, both quantifying the health of the milkweed patch as well as whether or not there are monarchs using that patch for breeding. And this is the kickoff year. We are probably going to be conducting these surveys next year and potentially the following year. And again, the call for volunteers is always going to be a big need for us on this project.
And about how many volunteers are you hoping to get? Because you said this is a statewide project.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, we have, um, there are over 5,000 sites of milkweed in Idaho that Idaho Fish and Game knows about. Now, there's probably many more that we haven't encountered yet that we don't have documented. And we've done a random selection of 1,000 of those sites. So we have 1,000 priority sites. Currently, we're shocked and amazed that over 400 of those sites have been adopted for the 2025 season. But there's still 600 that need adopted, and it would be incredible if 600 more people came online and
Yeah.
adopted a site this year. It would allow us to get even more data in the coming years. But if we don't, like our baseline goal is to at least get those 1,000 sites surveyed in the next 3 years. Um, we probably have, with those 400 sites adopted, I mean, most folks are adopting 3 to 5 sites. So we probably have a
Hmm.
little, maybe around 200 volunteers on the project right now, which is incredible. And we're so grateful.
So Tempe, when you talk about folks, what will happen is they'll adopt a patch of milkweed. So how big of a patch are we talking about? I mean, I'm thinking commitment wise
Yes.
here, right? Because you said you want to go out maybe 1 to 3 times this summer. You're counting the monarchs. So walk us through what this actually physically would look like for someone to do this.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Some of the milkweed patches are huge, and some of them are only a couple plants on the ground.
Hmm.
And volunteers will go to this website we've created and they'll see dots on a map that they can then select a dot that's near their house or in a convenient location. Or if they want to go on an adventure, it's up to them. And then they don't really know what they're going to get. And so we've actually been encouraging folks to go out this month, in the month of June, to visit their patches and see, is there actually milkweed here? Is it really large? Is it halfway across the river? What's the access like? So once they figure that out, the visits and the survey basically entail folks going to the field. We hope for the intensive survey, which is these 3 visits, one in the first 2 weeks of July, the last 2 weeks of July, another visit, and then one in the first 2 weeks of August. And this is to quantify what happens to a milkweed patch over time, over its growing season in Idaho. And also, the monarch butterflies often have more than one generation of caterpillars in Idaho, so you may see them using that patch during each of those
Hmm.
windows. And so we're just trying to maximize our opportunity for observations of the butterfly as well. And so when they're there in the field, depending on the size of the patch, the survey may take 5 minutes or it may take 30 minutes. And we're asking folks to map the patch by walking a circumference or plotting points if they don't have full access, and then searching each stem or up to 25 stems for caterpillars, eggs, or monarch adults, as well as capturing information like a site photo, whether or not the patch has water adjacent to it. Is it next to a highway? Oh, did someone come along and mow it? Did it get sprayed? These are things that Idaho Fish and Game is curious about that we'll then be able to put into models to assess the health of milkweed across the state and turnover of milkweed over time. We really want to know, is milkweed persisting in Idaho? Is it declining? Or is it staying static? And currently, with the knowledge we have, we don't know.
Okay, so you don't have to be a scientist or have any training, right? You can
No,
just be a
no,
regular person and
absolutely. Yeah,
volunteer.
we have made it so honestly, I'm really proud and excited to be on this project because we've worked really hard to equip our volunteers and community scientists with everything they need to be independent in the field. And this goes from an interactive website to recorded training videos. We had a webinar that was attended by 150 of these volunteers, and we're continuing to put out training videos. And we have a Facebook group that we are encouraging volunteers to join where they can also be part of a community that's sharing photos and learning from each other as the field season progresses. And so we can take anyone and equip them to do these surveys. And it's actually a really great thing for families to do because young kids can get up close and personal with milkweed and caterpillars and really, enjoy being in nature with their families.
Well, I want to thank you so much for taking time to talk with us about this. What a great project and so good for, information moving forward when it comes to our monarch butterflies. So thank you for taking time for us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
We've been talking with Tempe Reagan, a Fish and Game regional wildlife biologist. We've been talking about the summer butterfly survey. Now, the first round of the survey, it starts tomorrow, July 1st. So if you are interested in signing up, this is how you do it. Go to our website and we will put a link there. So just go to boisestatepublicradio.org and sign up and volunteer. I'm Gemma Gaudette, and this is Idaho Matters.
Planet Money helps you understand the economy. We find the people at the center of the story.
Garbage in New York, that was like a controlled substance.
We show you how money influences everything.
Tell me what you like by telling me how you spend your money.
And we dig until we get answers.
I had a bad feeling you're going to bring that up.
Planet Money finds out. All you have to do is listen. The Planet Money Podcast from NPR.